Hello, everybody. I'm Pastor Larry Stockstill. I am really, really excited to be with you, especially the topic that I'm going to be talking to you about today. And that is how to build a hedge around your home. You know, I've been in ministry now 47 years. I've been married for 40 years, pastored for 28 years. So I really know a lot about the attacks of the devil against marriage. And I'm dealing right now with an issue where I'm having to walk someone through a marriage issue who's in ministry. Now, I want to talk to you because you might be saying, well, you know, ours is not that bad, really. I want to get you to the point where it's great. Can you imagine your marriage being like great, like unbelievable? You can't wait to be together. Rather be with her than anybody in the world. You love her. Your kids are in order. Everything about your marriage is just unbelievable. Well, you might be a long, long way from that. If you're lost in the woods, all you need is to find a compass on the ground. You're not out of the woods, but you're on your way out. You find true north. Now, I'm going to just give you some experience here in the 4 areas. Think about a fenced-in yard. It's got 4 sides. I'm going to build 4 hedges for you around your marriage. You got to check them as we're going through. You'll have some notes available, but I want you to just pay attention because you might be a lot further from a good marriage than you think. And if I talk to your wife or your spouse, they might say, yeah, we're in bad shape. And a lot of times pastors tell me, oh, I'm not that bad. It's really not that bad. But wait a minute. Check these 4 things because the enemy is so sly, he can come in through a very inadvertent door that you have left open. I'm watching it happen all over America. Ministers' marriages are failing, and those who seem to be succeeding are really privately failing. Now, I've isolated 4 main causes why this is happening. Number 1 is I just call it stress and the stage. The stress of a public lifestyle. It's not just pastors, it's politicians, it's sports figures, it's many people who are recognized by the public. But the stress of that to be perfect, the stress to always perform, to be in performance mode 24/7, live in a fishbowl. Second cause I'm seeing of ministers' marriages failing and having trouble is, believe it or not, substance abuse. I'm going to talk about it more, but there are things that ministers are getting involved in and substances that they're dabbling in that are really causing major issues in their marriage. Number 3 is the pace of ministry and the loss of intimacy. Pace and loss of intimacy go together. When you're going too fast, too hard, flying around, there is no intimacy. It's a fake intimacy. It's a self-generated intimacy. Really, you're just trying to be sure your wife's not mad at you. That is not the goal of marriage. And the last one is financial pressure. And of course, that happens. Churches that are small can't really afford a pastor to have as much money as he needs to live and provide for his family. Bivocational pastors, maybe you are one of those, and God bless you, you're working and pastoring. I cannot imagine the size of your job. Plus, you throw in a marriage or a marriage strain or a marriage difficulty or a child away from God or any number of things that can upset this thing. So financial pressure is huge. Let's talk about these based upon 1 Peter chapter 3. The first 7 verses of that chapter deal with the subject of honor. It's interesting, the first 6 verses are to the woman. I'm not going to go there. That's just the way it is. Because Peter told the wife that she was to be like Sarah and call her husband Lord. Please don't tell your wife I told you that she needs to call you Lord. That would be a terrible idea. But the first 6 verses are written to a woman that she should honor a husband even if he's not saved. And of course, you're saved, hopefully being in the ministry. But the 7th verse deals with you, husbands. You should give honor to your wife and dwell with her according to knowledge as the weaker vessel, giving honor to the wife as the weaker vessel. That's an important phrase. I'm going to talk to you about some things that you might say, well, that's ridiculous. She's a grown woman. You know what? She can make it. But that's not what Paul told you to say. In fact, he said, if you don't honor her, if you don't treat her with value and as the weaker vessel, that your prayers will be hindered. You might be fasting, praying, doing great series, studying conferences, going to conferences, but your church will not grow. And it could be the simple thing that your wife is crying out to the Lord, that she's miserable and unhappy living with you in the ministry. So let me go over these 4 things. Now, the first thing, and I talked about stress and speech. The first thing to remember is that you must build a wall between your mind and your ministry. I didn't say you should be mindless in ministry. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about not letting the thoughts of ministry consume your mental bandwidth. I call this order. Really, my mind was out of order for years, not in anything illicit. Where my mind was out of order was thinking 24/7 about the problems I had to deal with at work. And I'm talking about as a megachurch pastor, maybe you're not that, but you've got Brunhilde Huckelmeister in the hospital and you're counseling this marriage that just won't turn the corner. And you've got this sermon series to work on. And then another church plant's about a mile away from you. That's a really amazing church. And so your mind is on your children's ministry and your marketing and all of the things you're supposed to do as a pastor to make this thing grow. Not only that, but we had a Christian school, and we had a TV station, we had a radio station, we had 3 campuses, we had missions all over the world. So it could consume. The moment my mind got the slightest bit idle, it reverted over to the church. Now, I'm going to talk about the dangers of that. Your phone, do I need to say more? Your phone could be destroying your marriage. And you say, well, no, it's no problem for me. Really, the average person is checking their phone seriously and working on their phone 150 times a day. Wow. Did you know that notifications are coming to people 2,200 times a day? Now, I'm sure you're not like that, right? But you may be shocked. Some ministers, I cannot even speak to them at lunch, a private session, without them being distracted 5, 7, 10 times with text messages, emails, and calls. My brother, your wife is probably about to pull her hair out over your phone. So I highly recommend that you turn it off when you come home, or that there's an agreed upon protocol that you will go through with your phone. Second thing is your time matrix. I was a 24/7 guy. I was on call 24/7. Hospitals, counseling. My wife just hit me upside the head. Can you come? Yeah, I'd take off. And I really realized that I was available 24/7 for ministry responsibilities. I thank the Lord. I have learned, and of course now I'm no longer pastoring. I have a lot better perspective of this. But a time matrix, where you fit in your office visits, you fit in your sermon preparation time, you fit in time with your family, time with your wife, you fit in the order that's necessary to make it for, as my dad and mom did, 63 years in the ministry. So quit trying to live life like your hair's on fire, that you're running like you're a fireman in a fire station. Anytime, day or night, you slide down the pole. Golly, man, you're going to have to slow down and build a wall between your mind and your ministry. And then focus is a huge part of that. Focus means you're never going to allow your ministry to become another lover. I mean, I have watched pastors that literally have fallen in love with their ministry. And now social media, their adoring fans are everywhere. So 20 times a day, men are on social media tweeting to the masses of adoring people. Well, you've lost your focus. And they call this limerism. This is a psychological term for someone who focuses on a lover who does not requite their love. 80% of the time, they think about that person. Hello. That might be you. You might be experiencing some limerence for a second wife, which we would call your church. Now, I'm talking from the years of experience. Please, if you're a young man, set your boundaries right now. I'm building a hedge between my mind and my ministry. Second hedge you have to have is a wall between your flesh and enticement. Your flesh is very, very, very much active. I know you're crucified with Christ. I realize that. I am too. But your flesh is still very, very much active. You're going to have to realize that enticement is real. You say, well, that's other guys that fall for alcohol. They become addicts. Really, my heart was broken a few months ago here in America with a man who I'm told had between 40 and 50,000 people in his church was fired by his board for becoming an alcoholic. Now, let me speak to some of you who are involved in wine and involved in liquor and all of that stuff, and I'm not telling you what your convictions should be. Paul said in Romans 14 that we are not to judge one another and to set one another's standards, but he did say that if what he's doing, if he's eating or drinking and it causes your brother to be offended, he said, I will not eat or drink while the world stands. So I'm going to speak to you just for a moment about how maybe substances and other enticements could destroy your marriage. They could. I'm dealing with this right now. And like I said, I'm not going to get into a theological thing about whether Cana's wine was alcoholic in content. I'm not going there. I know for myself, I don't want anything that numbs the sensibility of my brain. Nothing. Pastors are telling me I have to drink so I can relax. I don't. The Bible says, be not drunk with wine wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit. I realize that a lot of the problem that guys have when they're drinking a lot right now is their devotional life. Now, I want to speak to you about yours. I don't think you can spend an hour and a half or 2 hours with the Lord in prayer and Bible study every day and have a great need for something to cause you to relax. Now, listen to me carefully. Alcohol and pills may lead to addiction. I have friends who've been coming home from a place, they had a few glasses of wine, pulled over, got UWI, and there they were on national news, Fox News, their mugshot, because they had 2 or 3 glasses of wine at a friend's house. Now, please, I'm begging you, younger generation, don't think that you cannot fall prey, because if your senses get numbed and then you get over bold with a little wine at night, and you start saying some stuff to your wife that you have no business saying. I'm just issuing a warning. I'm not directing your life. Pornography is the same thing. Sometimes people laugh at me about filters on the internet and being accountable in something like Covenant Eyes or one of these really fine programs that helps someone to know what you're looking at, accountability for the sites and the surfing and all of that. But I'm telling you, I'm hearing from my young adult pastors right now that 100% of the young adults in their group are on pornography. 100%. They said not one is not. And I think a lot of pastors, I'm hearing 60%. So you may be one of those. You sneak a little peek every now and then on your cell phone, and you think nobody's going to catch you. But you know what? You're destroying the foundations of respect and honor for your wife. Use filters. Be accountable. Tell people what you're doing. Get someone who you are accountable to. And then women, please listen to me. If you have a female assistant, a young person on staff that you do intimate work with and all of that, please listen to me. Do not do that. I'm not saying every assistant needs to be a male, but I am saying you don't do private work with anybody. You don't do alone work with anybody. If you find out from the guys that have been around me for 35 years, I've had female assistants. They're in another office. They're never in my office coming in, the door closed. That doesn't happen. I don't work alongside them. I may email them about a flight reservation or something. And actually, most of my assistants through my life have been male for that purpose. You say, well, that's a little too stringent. Again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm telling you what worked for me. So maintain a border with other women. Do not work closely alongside women. I've become pretty convinced that just about any woman, when you get unhappy, any woman begins to entice you. And that may sound ridiculous. She weighs 400 pounds. Well, you know what? I'm not going to be surprised anymore, because you have to be very careful right now, my brothers, of alcohol, pills, pornography, women, the wall between your flesh and enticement. And I'm talking now, I'm issuing a warning to you. Number 3. A warning to you. Number 3, build a wall between your pleasure and obsession. There's got to be some balance. You've got to have rest. You've got to have devotion to the Lord to avoid your flesh. Jesus said, watch and pray, for the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. Your devotional life is the wall between you and temptation. And then build a wall between your pleasure and obsession, because pleasure is a wonderful thing. God made us to have pleasure. But my brothers, when that pleasure turns into an obsession, you start treating people as a means to an end. Well, let me tell you, I like what Martin Buber said. They're an end in themselves. People are an end in themselves. Your wife is not a means to an end. She's not a sexual toy that you obsess with. She is an end in herself. Your children, your hobbies, your spending, all of the gratification of your pleasures cannot become obsessive. And let's talk about some hobbies. Now, brothers, I love to hunt. I love to fish. I love to play golf. I play just about every week. But you know what? That hobby is in balance. I asked my wife about it. I want to know if she's okay with that. And if she says yes, I want her to know in advance when I'm going and where I'm going. I want her to know everything about it. And I'm not going to be gone for 2 and 3 days. I'm going to be gone for 2 or 3 hours. Because you can become very obsessive. You can come home and watch ESPN for 5 hours a night, every ball game. You know what? Half of them don't even matter. It's not a championship. Super Bowls and playoffs and all that. Okay, but when you're just obsessing, not only on TV now, but on the internet, you're obsessed with surfing Amazon. You're obsessed with all types of trips that you want to take, and you obsess and you research them for days and days and days. That's time apart from your wife that you're home. Spending can be a pleasure. You can obsess over emotional purchases. An out of balance pursuit of pleasure, probably some of your financial problems are because of that obsession. And then you can, believe it or not, obsess over sex. I'm not saying you should not have sex, because sex in balance, it's right. The Bible speaks about that. But I like to say sex is the last domino. You've heard me say that. There's many dominoes that fall before the last one. And your wife is supposed to feel a sense of intimacy prior to sexuality. If there's no conversation, if there's no long walks, if there's no watching of a movie together, if there's no 1 hour talks sitting in your chairs about theology or politics or something more important than your latest hunt, she's not really interested in you anymore. She's only really just with you because she's supposed to be. Don't you hate that? Well, it's you. Your obsessions have led you away from the bedroom, from the chamber where she is. There's no love. There's no feeling. No, I want to go out to eat with you because I can't wait to talk to you the whole way and back. The other day, Melanie and I went to New Orleans to eat lunch. It's 80 miles one way, just so we could talk. I'm telling you, you can have that kind of a life, but you cannot be sexually obsessed without true fellowship, fun, and mutual hobbies. Build a wall between your pleasure and obsession. And here's the last one. Build a wall or a hedge between your emotions and your words. That's peace. The mouth, man, the things that people say to each other. I hate you. I don't really love you. I never loved you. I made a mistake with you. Those words are absolutely crippling your marriage. And I believe there's guys watching this right now. You've been fighting with your wife for several months. You're under stress. You're having financial problems. You're obsessing about the wrong things. The stage has become a 24-hour thing. And now you're just letting it all go. You're saying things that you have no business saying. I love the Beatitudes. In fact, I highly recommend you to watch the first Wednesday I did in February 1st at Bethany.com and watch my teaching on how to reconcile relationships. So blessed are the merciful, blessed are the pure in heart, blessed are the peacemakers. You know, all relationships start with mercy. If you can't forgive, and I'm talking about instantaneous, spontaneous forgiveness, when they're saying it, if you can't forgive, you're going to get in trouble, because the longer you think about it and are not merciful, number two, Jesus said, blessed are the pure in heart. That thing's going to get down in your heart. It's going to become a bitterness. I have watched marriages where bitternesses last for 10, 15, 20 years unresolved. And if you don't deal with your heart and you've got a bitterness in it, number three, Jesus said, blessed are the peacemakers. You're going to be seeking out a counselor, a peacemaker, or you're going to have to learn how to be one yourself, because your wife may say, I've had enough, I'm leaving. What are you going to do then? I like what I read somewhere about peacemaker. You must learn to be quiet. You must learn to be confidential, and you must learn to be apologetic. Now, brothers, all of us struggle with our temper. I believe pastors are some driven people, very driven. And because we're driven, we're high strung, we blast out, we pop off, we got a fast mouth. Let me tell you, when mama is telling you that she's frustrated and hurt and is missing you and lonely and that marriage is not what she thought it would be, just sit there and learn to be quiet. Just quiet and listen. And then learn to be confidential. What she says to you, she's bearing her heart. Don't go tell someone else. She has shared her deepest, deepest hurts with you. And then be apologetic. Now, I'm not saying apologize for something you haven't done, but I'm saying that if she's hurting, learn to apologize. I've apologized to Melanie so many times. I'm insensitive sometimes. Or I say the wrong thing. I do the wrong thing. It's not really intentional. I'm just a doofus sometimes. You are too. That's why it says dwell with your wife according to knowledge, man. Get with the program. She's the weaker vessel. Yeah, that's right. Thank God mine's a weaker vessel. That's right. Yours better be too. She better not be able to bench press 400 pounds. You're in serious trouble, my brother. Be apologetic. Now, I've given you the hedge. Let me just remind you what they are. Number one, build a wall or a hedge between your mind and your ministry, your phone calls, your time matrix, your focus. Number two, build a hedge between your flesh and enticement. Alcohol, pills, pornography, women, all of those things. Number three, build a hedge between your pleasure and your obsession. Hobbies, spending, lack of intimacy with her, and just wanting to sexually obsess about her. Number four, build a wall between your emotions and your words. Learn to forgive. Learn to be quiet. Learn to be confidential. Learn to apologize. Brothers, somebody's watching this right now. You're in the ministry. The Lord loves you, but He told me that I should speak this to you. And I want you to share it. I want you to watch it. And I want you to think of 10 pastors that would enjoy this and receive from this. And then you call them and say, I want you to hear this. I want you to do that right now. God bless you. I love you. So excited that you've been on this call. Father, bless the men and women that have watched this video. May they be encouraged and strengthened, Lord, in all that they do for you. I bind the enemy from their life, Lord, their finances, their marriage, their beautiful wife, their children, their church. Holy Spirit, root out bitterness and root out patterns and root out habits and root out thoughts that are destroying the very fabric of their marriage. And I thank you for it now in Jesus' name. Amen.